Hey, what's up? If you're new to the channel, I haven't seen my videos before, my name is Josh Cohen. I'm going to talk about a little bit of Bible verses today. Today, the jersey I'm wearing is Chris Carter's Vikings jersey. Football season's just around the corner, so I'm wearing football jerseys a lot this fall. I'm excited for the fall. Obviously, I got plenty of Moss jerseys. Don't worry about that. Chris Carter, though, was my guy before Moss even got there. Big fan of Chris Carter. Love the way he played. I think he's an extremely underrated wide receiver in the history of the league. Love Chris Carter. Today I'm going to talk about the story where Jesus meets the Samaritan woman at the well. I'm just going to kind of read through some things, like I said before, and point out some things that I've noticed as I've read the story. More recently, again, go 2 times speed if you need to, if this is taking too long, but I'm going to try to keep these shorter. The last few that I've done got a little bit longer than I was hoping for, to be honest with you guys. So Jesus at the well, set the stage. Jesus is at a well. And he runs into this Samaritan woman, and he asks her to get him a drink. And she says, like, why are you even talking to me? Like, I'm a Samaritan woman. Like, we're Jewish men, should not have conversations with us. And that's the first thing, I guess, maybe to point out is just that Jesus cared about people. He cared about all people. Didn't matter if it was a woman of a different culture. Like, he sees people. Jesus, when he walked this earth, he saw people. We serve a God that sees people. Talked about this before. It doesn't matter your culture, your gender, your ethnicity, really doesn't matter. Jesus, God sees you and God cares about you. And that's the way we should be as well, right? We should be people as followers of Christ, as people who follow his example, right? We're supposed to. We should see people as well. So then he says, okay, basically he says, the water that you're going to drink is nice, but I'm offering living water that if you drink this, you'll never thirst again. And I'll just read that. Verse 13. This is in John 4, by the way. Verse 13 through 19, Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again, but whoever drinks of the water that I give them will never thirst. But the water that I shall give him will become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water that I may not thirst, nor come here to draw. Jesus said to her, Go, call your husband and come here. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Some of you guys know the story. You know where we're going with this, right? Jesus said to her, You have said well, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not your husband. In that you spoke truly. The woman said to him, Sir, I perceive that you are a prophet. Wow. So Jesus, who knows she does not have a husband, says, go and tell your husband to come, and then says, no, you don't have a husband. I know you've had 5, and the guy you're with now is not your husband. Jesus reads her mail. So first, before he gets to that, he's talking about the living water, and you'll never thirst again. Obviously, he's not talking about actual water, and he's not talking. What he's talking about is what we do is we as humans on Earth, we seek temporary fixes, things that give us joy temporarily, that fuel us, that quench our thirst temporarily, right? Like people that have to go draw water from the well every single day. These aren't even necessarily always bad things, right? We often talk about, sex or drugs or alcohol or different things that we try to like fill this void or we hope will satisfy us in life. But even good things, right? Water's not a bad thing, but if you're going to, I don't know, for me, it's sports, it's buying shoes, right? Things that aren't necessarily bad, right? If you can afford them, I guess, that aren't necessarily bad, but are temporary, and they don't satisfy. If you're looking for satisfaction, if you're looking for like actual joy and purpose in life, you're not going to find it in shoes, in clothes, in video games, in anything earthly, right? Anything on this earth, you're just not going to. It's not going to satisfy you, right? So Jesus is telling her that he can offer something that will satisfy you forever, and you'll never thirst again. Okay, but then also he reads her mail, right? But it's not to embarrass her, but it's to get her attention. And I want to point this out because I feel like I've interacted with people before that have tried to like call people out in like the name of this. Of like, oh, well, God told me that you were talking to this guy or you were doing this and you shouldn't have been, or I know that you have been sleeping around. I know that you've been, doing drugs when you claim to be what. Like, Jesus is not doing this to embarrass her. In fact, there's no one else around. It's just the two of them. He's reading her mail. He's getting this word of knowledge, right, from the Lord to get her attention so that he can witness to her, so he can speak to her. And I think I've been in situations or around situations where people are using it to embarrass them or to upset them. And that's just not the case. That should never be the case. And usually it's not, they heard from God. It's just them. They happen to know the tea. So they're going to call them out in front of people. And I hate that. Just important to me that that's not what Jesus is doing here. Go down a little bit later, verse 25 and 26. The woman said to him, I know the Messiah is coming, who is called Christ. When he comes, he will tell us all things. Jesus said to her, I who speak to you am he. Basically, Jesus says, I'm him. I love when Jesus has these moments. There's a few times throughout the Gospels where he is just like, nah, it's me. Like, I'm him. Like, literally, I am him. Like, I'm the one you're looking for. He wasn't like shouting from the rooftops. He wasn't trying to proclaim to everyone, everywhere, like all this attention, whatever. Obviously, you see people followed him. There was times when he even told people after they were healed to like not tell anyone. They did anyways. But he wasn't like loud about it, but he was very confident. And I love that. First of all, he's God, so he can do that, right? But that's the kind of like quiet confidence that I want. I don't need to shout from the rooftops. I don't think I have that much great stuff to shout anyways, but I want to be confident still in who I am, right? And if somebody asks me or if it comes up, like I want to confidently be able to say, yeah, I'm him. Like I am him, not the Son of God, not the Messiah, like Jesus said, but I want to be so confident in who I am and who God created me to be that I'm not ashamed to say, yeah, I'm him, right? So I love that. I just love I love when Jesus is not, because we think of Jesus as like meek and humble, and obviously he was, right? But humility does not mean you're ashamed of who you are or you need to hide like the good aspects about you, right? He was the Son of God, and he wasn't afraid to say it. He wasn't afraid to say, this Messiah that you're looking for, I'm him. And then we see in verse 28 and 29, the woman left her water pot, went her way into the city, and said to the men, come see a man who told me all the things that I ever did. Could this be the Christ? This woman is the example of what we should be as a modern Christian. We're not all called to be evangelists. Some people are absolutely called to be evangelists, to like that's their job. There are people who are called to go overseas as missionaries. All of that is great, right? But all of us should be like this woman, where we go to Jesus, we spend time with him, we experience God, and then we share that with people just in our own hometowns, in our own circles, the people, our family, our friends, co-workers, teammates, if you play sports, like just tell people, experience Jesus and tell people. That's what she did. And she didn't have all the answers. Like a lot of us, I think, are afraid to maybe have those conversations or start those conversations because we're like, I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. You don't have to. She didn't have the answer. She didn't even know for sure that Jesus was the Son of God who he claimed to be. She just said, could this be the Christ? She just asked the question. She didn't know, but she invited them to come find out with her, right? So you don't have to have all of the answers, right? I did a thing about being like John the Baptist. We're just pointing people to Christ and let them find out and experience him for themselves. Experience God and show people. Experience God and then go tell people. Like that's what God is calling us to do in our own lives. You don't have to be a missionary overseas. You can change the world by changing your world. Verse 39 says that, and many of the Samaritans of that city believed in him because of the word of the woman who testified. The heading over this little section in my Bible says, the Savior of the world. Jesus wasn't just a Jewish Savior. He came to save the entire world. And to do that, it's not just about like missions or planting churches overseas, nothing against that. But we change the world by experiencing Jesus for ourselves and then going out and tell people to change our world. That's the model that this is pointing out. That's what Christ is calling us to do. No matter who you are and where you live, there are people in your life that you can influence. I'm just going to encourage you to spend some time with God, experience Jesus, and then go tell someone. Go share your experience with your world.